Hello, my name is Christopher Dalton. I am a recent Wilmington University graduate for the MBA program. I saw that there were a lot of videos on the BSG, but some of them got some of the points extremely wrong, and I wanted to go through and hopefully help somebody who was having some issues with the BSG. Right now, I'm getting ready to do the invitational tournament. So obviously, we won. My team won my class's competition. So now I'm going to go against some of the other winners from other schools. So I'd like to just go through and give some tips and tricks on how to work this. So on your first page, you have your compensation and training. You can increase the wages, incentive pay. Incentive pay is pay per non-rejected pair, which you want to keep this number right here, which is direct reflection of this, about 15 to 25%. Fringe benefits are just like a bonus or something like that. I typically put these down, but it's up to you. Best practices training, they decrease the cost of your materials. They decrease your reject rate so you make more good pairs of shoes, and they also increase your SQ, and it's cumulative. So if you put money in, invest money into this, it's going to benefit you even if you put less money in year after year. It's going to continue to benefit you. And then you can adjust your supervisor to staff ratios and how much you're paying your supervisors. These numbers are for each facility, so obviously you start the game off with North America and Asia, and you can expand into Europe or Latin America. Moving on to branded production, you have your all these numbers affect your SQ. So you have superior materials, standard materials. Obviously, more superior materials you use, higher your SQ is. Number of models. So the number of models you have, more models you have, it's going to increase your reject rate, but it's going to make your brand more popular. And the more models you have increases your image rating. Enhanced styling features per model. So this is 10,000 per model. You have 200 models, so this would cost you 2 million. Obviously, the more models you have, you want this number to stay the same or go lower. Otherwise, you're spending more and more money. TQM Six Sigma program. This, like the best practices, is cumulative. So you can invest in this. It's going to increase your SQ rating. It's going to continue to increase your SQ rating the more you put into it. But it's also going to benefit you even if you scale back your spending in SQ, in the Six Sigma. These are how many shoes you produce. One of the things that I missed is when I did my first round was that we didn't really adjust these because we really didn't know what we were doing. But you do want to adjust these in order to make sure that you have enough, that you're producing enough shoes, and you're making shoes where you need to make them. So if you have if you increase your production equipment in North America, you want to increase the number of shoes that you produce in North America too. So this is where you upgrade your production facilities. You can buy new production equipment, refurbish production equipment, or sell your old production equipment. I do recommend selling some of your production equipment because in year 5 and 6, your equipment in North America and Asia each respectively have their equipment fully depreciated and scrapped. So you do want to replace it. And it's a good idea to replace it over time instead of replacing it all in year 5 and then replacing it all in year 6. Your production improvement options, these options show you how much they cost up front and how much they're going to save you each year. These numbers do change with the amount of production equipment that you purchase, and it also increases the cost of the production equipment that you buy. So for option A, it's going to cost you 10 grand, but it's going to save you 2.5. So this would take you 4 years to be able to pay this off. So these are not options you want to pick at the end of the game. These are options that you want to select quite early in the game. And you can only choose 2 per facility and only build 1 each year. And they only affect you the following years. They don't affect you this year. Down here, you can increase the space that you have for production equipment in North America and Asia, or you can build new facilities in Europe or Latin America. This is your distribution page. So of the 4,033 pairs you made in North America, we go down here. After rejects, it's 3,751. You distribute them to whatever countries you want to send them to. And then you go down here, you look at your projected surplus or shortfall. So you want to keep an eye on these because these numbers will change with every single decision that you make. And so before you submit, you want to check these and make sure that these are acceptable levels for what you want. Some people will say to produce more than you need. Some people will say to produce less than you need. It just depends on the strategy that you're going with. My company, we when we did it with for my class, I always like to keep a very small shortfall, just because sometimes branded production, these are just basically their best guesses. I'll explain that here in a minute, how we get these numbers down here. But they're best guesses, and sometimes those guesses don't always end up being right. And so I'd rather would have, just losing a few and having my ending numbers correct, than having too much inventory left over and being charged extra for it, because you do get charged storage fees for the number of models that are in your storage facilities. So we go down here. This is not for factories, but these are for the markets. So you set the price per market, how much you're going to advertise in each market, and if you're going to charge the customer shipping or not. So right now it starts out that customers pay your shipping. It's $12.50. So if you do free shipping, you're going to be making $12.50 less. This is a projection of how many shoes you're going to sell based on the SQ rating and model numbers and advertising and everything else like that. It shows your financials for the retail sales. Now, these are your assumptions. These are important because these affect your projections. So I recommend for your first year, if you're new at this, you want to put in here that whatever you guys choose to sell your shoes for, I would say that everybody else is going to do the same thing for your first year competitive assumptions, and then go from there. This is your wholesale marketing. So what this means is you're selling to retailers, like you're selling to sporting goods stores, shoe stores, everything like that, and they're carrying your products. Down here you have the retail outlets. These are the number of people that are going to carry your brand. As you increase this number, you're going to sell more shoes. Your brand advertising up here also influences your retail sales, but it's under this budget. You have a mail-in rebate. The higher your rebate is, the more people will redeem it. But it's only a fraction of people who do redeem it. So you can play with this, see how it affects your performance. Down here again, we have your overall shortfalls or surpluses. And again, you have your competitive assumptions down here. So in your first year, you can only assume that the SQ rating is going to be 5, but you can assume everything else. And like I said, whatever you choose up here, for your first year, I would recommend doing the same thing for your competitive assumptions, and then adjust accordingly as you move forward into the game and you see everybody trying to differentiate themselves. Private label production, so as opposed to branded production, you don't actually produce these until they're ordered by a private label. So you have a minimum SQ that you have to make. Your production capability that's left over after branded, including overtime, however many you produce, and where you ship them to. This shows you the cost of producing from each facility, the cost that you're selling that you're offering these shoes for. So you're basically saying, hey, Walmart, I want to sell you 215 pairs of shoes for $32 a pair. And then Walmart's going to say yes or no, depending on what everybody else bids on it. So somebody might bid less money, somebody might bid more money. Just because you have a higher bid doesn't mean you automatically won't get a bid, or just because you have the lowest price and a lot of production doesn't mean you're going to get everything, because they do have market shares, so that if all the companies try to go for a private label, even if you're the lowest one, your market share is going to be limited, because the marketers want to buy from multiple companies instead of just one. This shows your margin over cost, and down here is your assumption page if you believe you're going to win the bids or not. So these are helpful because they make your numbers more accurate if you do win the bids. But if you don't think you're going to win the bids, or maybe win some of them, I would say, pick one or two to say no on. That way your ending numbers can be more accurate, because you do get bonus points for being accurate. in your predictions. We have celebrities. You can bid for celebrities. They give you celebrity appeal, which we see right here. As of right now, it's 0, but once you get celebrities, that number will go up. That increases the number of shoes you sell. It's basically advertising. So you want to bid on how much you want to spend per year. Obviously, for your first year, you don't know what everybody else is going to bid, so it's important just to play with it and try not to spend too much, but spend enough to make sure that you get some. Corporate citizenship, this is an important one that I think a lot of people get wrong. When you look through them, recycled boxes doesn't give you any benefit, just adds a cost. Energy efficiency just adds cost. Charitable contributions not only adds cost, but also decreases your EPS and your ROE. So I would recommend against doing charitable contributions. I do like these two, improve working conditions, because they improve the productivity of each of your workers, and that would take effect the following year. So you won't see an increase this year, but you'll see it next year. They do increase your image rating, and they do give you a benefit. So you want to do these early if you're going to choose to do these. But like I said, your SQ rating and your number of models also increases your brand reputation and your image rating. So you may not need all of these. You may just need enough to get you over to the top, and then just maintain, or you can slightly taper down. For financing cash flow, you can either borrow money from the bank, issue stocks, buy stocks back, give a dividend, or pay off your loans early. What you can do with your ending cash right here. I typically would suggest buying stocks back, because the less stock you have, the easier it is to have a higher EPS and ROE. Dividends will reduce your ROE, because dividends decrease your equity, but they don't really increase your EPS. Loans, you can look at your interest rate, and if you have a lower interest rate available to you right now, you might be able to refinance these loans and pay less interest costs. That's something just you want to look at. Down here you have your equity. Obviously you want to keep your equity lower, that way you have a higher ROE. And then you have how it thinks you're going to perform on the credit. So that's basically all the decisions you can make. The other thing that you do want to look at is down here in the comparative analysis. This is a chart of either SQ, price, and models. These are all your market shares of the market. You want to make sure that your circle is further away from other people's circles. That's going to make sure that you still have a heavy, enough people buying to make you profitable. If everybody bunches their circles up, it's going to be very, very difficult to operate. Whereas if you have your circle over here and everybody else is over here, then you're going to have a niche market, and that's going to serve you better. And you're going to make more profit, and you're going to have a better chance of winning the game than if you were slugging it with everybody else in the same spot. But these are basically a lot of things that I found that some people got wrong, or on the website on YouTube trying to give advice, and like I said, I just wanted to see if I could help some people out and make some right decisions. I am going into the invitational tournament coming up here. It's going to start on Monday, so I will record myself doing those decisions, and I'll post those after the tournament is done. But I'll post this movie up first, just so everybody so it's up there, and hopefully it helps somebody. But otherwise, I will post a couple videos next week. Everybody take care.